Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we are currently on our way to Duna, kind of. We're lining up for our burn to Duna right now, but as you can see, we are, kind of at Kerbin still. So that's going to be a little bit. We need to get this alignment completed, so let's just physics warp as we get aligned here. And then we're going to be warping for 330 days. Now that's a pretty long warp, and I'm not going to make you sit through it. So we will be back as soon as this warp is very close to over. Okay, so you may notice we're not warping. The reason for that is because I actually just reloaded the save that I made at the end of last episode. We were like 30 seconds into it. And the reason why I did that was because I started the time warp and our orbit dramatically changed. It changed so that our apoapsis was actually up where our encounter with Duna is going to be, and our maneuver was up here and pushing us out to dress. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen again here, but I wanted to catch it on camera if it does. So let's physics warp our turn. We're going to do everything exactly the same way, and we'll see if it reproduces. If not, great. That's ideal. We want things to stay like this, the way that they're supposed to. So let's see what happens when we press this button. No change. Okay, we're going into... Yeah, okay. So the moment we enter the solar... The solar field of influence here... Oh, wait. Never mind. The issue, in fact, is that we had interference by the moon. Okay. I'm not going to do this, then. We're going to slingshot around here. Okay, so right here. Right, so the moon kind of wrecked our orbit. Interesting that that wasn't being predicted by patched conics. Why? Why wasn't that being predicted by patched conics? Okay, I want to load this back in and just evaluate what's going on there. Now, this doesn't really change anything too much for us, to be clear. It's fine, it's not a problem, but I'm interested in why it's happening. So, the moon interfering with our orbit is all well and good, right? That's not an issue. That's understood that that can happen. But why isn't it being projected by our maneuver system? So, okay, if we go to the fuel production module, we can see this is on an escape trajectory. So if we fly this right now, where is the moon at this moment? I'm wondering if we're having a warping bug of some sort, because it seems like it takes us a very long time to get out of the system, for one thing. But let's just take a look at where our orbit is. So the moon is here, and should be heading this direction. How long is it going to take us to get to here? 3 hours. Okay. That shouldn't be causing any interference, but it happened twice at this point. So let's warp to here. Okay. I'm noticing that this appears to have been slightly consumed, but we'll worry about that later. For now, we just need to escape this system. Let's warp up to here. The moon is heading away from us. Is this a problem with min-miss, perhaps? Tossing us back into moon? But we're not seeing an encounter there either. The inclination should make that a bit difficult for it to happen. Let's warp up to here. I'm not changing a single thing here. We're now past the orbit of the moon. I don't think we should have a second Kerbin encounter for a long time. So I'm confused about why that was giving us a problem. That must be a bug. We're nowhere near min-miss when we pass the min-miss orbit. There is no body that could have caused us to get captured by the moon. But it happened twice when I used this button. So that indicates to me that there is clearly some kind of a bug there. Well, by warping through much more cautiously, we appear to have solved the bug. So now we can see that this is our projected orbit here. And it looks like we're going to need to set Duna as our target, and we're going to need to slightly adjust this burn, but that's not surprising. So it'll be something about like that, and let's focus our view on Duna. I want to take a look at what our periapsis is looking like. Okay, we can definitely dial that in some. So let's do something about like that. I want to make a bit of an inclination change here as well. Bring that up a little bit, but the inclination is going to be, you know, kind of just a general thing that we're going to have to deal with once we get there. Would probably be the easiest way to do that. So I'm going to get rid of the inclination change for right now. And we're going to work on dialing that in a little bit closer. Okay, I'm wondering about directionality would be going this way. Okay, so we're coming in retrograde at this moment. That's understood. That is not great. We would like to not come in retrograde, so let's come in on this side, where we're going to be coming in prograde. But we still need to work a fair amount on that inclination, because as you can see, it's a bit of a problem. Well, one thing we could do is we could fix the inclination out here. So the ascending node is here. Where's our current position? Our current position is here. So the descending node is here, and we can do a burn here to just fix that. It's much cheaper to do it here. So that's very, very minor, and let's align for this. Now, we're going to need to pin these open because we've been unsaving and reloading, right? Like, we've been reloading a couple of times here, so we need to pin these back open. Very unfortunate, but here we are. That was an interesting bug, for sure. That was 1,000% a bug. There was no gravitational influence there that should have caused us to be in a really strange orbit. I have no idea why it did it twice. But then when we didn't auto-warp, it was fine. So I have to assume that was a bug of some description. So let's go ahead and warp on forward here. And I auto-warped, so let's make sure that nothing broke. It seems fine, so that should be good. And this is just going to be 2.7 meters per second. So very, very minute, this burn. Okay, we're aligning. And we have about 50 seconds until this burn. Okay, let's go ahead and go. So 40 seconds, 30, 20, 10, and 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. We need to control from here. Okay, there we go. That's also something that I think broke because of our reload. So we're controlling from here now. That is the correct control point. I think it was controlling from here. So that definitely is a bit of a problem, but it's not a huge deal. We'll just get oriented around, and this will cost us an extra tiny amount of DV, but I really don't care. So it's completely fine for right now. And the timing doesn't matter. This orbit is so long that being a minute and a half late is basically irrelevant. It's basically a 1-year orbit, so yeah, quite irrelevant. Getting the last little bit of this burn completed. 2, 1, and 0. There we go. We'll go to kill rot for now, and we, of course, need to find that maneuver again. It was out over here, I believe, was the timing, approximately. Okay, so this definitely is going to need to be a little earlier than this, right around over here. Okay. Right about there. And which direction do we need to go here? Okay. What's this looking like? So we are coming in a retrograde direction right now. We're still quite a lot below this, even with that inclination change. That's unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world. So that seems fine. We could just call this good, but I'm going to dial this in a little bit, and we'll raise it down. And this is, again, retrograde. So I want to have it around on this side. And just bring it in about like this. Okay, that's going a little too far. Let's bring it back a bit. There we go. Sure. Something about like this should be fine. The inclination I'm not very happy with, but it'll work. We've got plenty of DV to make this happen. I'm not concerned about it. So let's flow this fuel in. There we go. And we'll just stop these. Perfect. We'll align to this now that we're correctly oriented. And we'll commence this burn in 255 days. Now, once again, I'm not going to make you sit through the 255 days of warping. So we're just going to get into position for this burn. We're going to start the warp, and I'm going to check to make sure that our warp doesn't fundamentally break anything. I'm saving here just in case. Looks good. Okay. See you guys after this warp. So here we are, very close to the warp ending, and there's the warp completed. Excellent. So this is going to be in about 50 seconds. So let's warp a little further in. 40, 30, 20, 10, and 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. It's going to be a 4-minute burn at this point. So we're definitely going to want to transfer this fuel, and let's go ahead and physics warp this. Are we thrust limited? No, we're not. Okay. So we're going to want to definitely transfer some of this fuel over. No doubt about that. So we're going to transfer this in as soon as it gets a little lower here. We need to get accelerated up quite a lot, though. So all is looking good there. So this is going to be like 220 times 6. What is that? Like 1,300? 1,400? Pretty close to a full tank here. Let's go ahead and flow this fuel right on in. Excellent. And we're going to just pull out of these tanks one at a time for right now. There we go. That looks good. So let's take it out of physics warp for the time being because we need to change which tanks we have selected. So let's do that right now. So we'll get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Excellent. So we've got all of these ready to go now. We can go back into physics warp as we continue to go through this burn. We've got about 3 minutes of burn time left in this, apparently. Really? That must have been calculating the increased thrust to weight from jettisoning this. Yeah, that would be a bit incorrect. So we've still got another 300 meters per second to do here. So let's go ahead and do in. There we go. And we're going to need to stop these because we don't want to pull too unevenly here at this point. There's still a lot of mass there, and that is absolutely still a concern. So this is looking good for now. We've got about 1 minute of burn time left. Our thrust to weight is still quite low here. That's understood. The question is, what orbit are we going to get this into? I guess we'll find out. Coming out of physics warp here, we've only got a few seconds left on this burn. So 25 meters per second right now. And I'm watching for the actual encounter coming in here. Okay. Where is it? We've got 3 meters per second to go here. There it is. Okay, we just want it to be kind of outside of Ike because... Okay, that'll work for now. So the question now is, what's the DV cost of entering orbit here? And are we going to need a refuel? We're also retrograde, aren't we? No, we're prograde. Okay, that's fine. So we need to bring this around, and we need to enter orbit here, and that DV cost is pretty high. 757.7 meters per second. I'd like to drop this down to roughly circularize approximately for now. About here or so. So that's about 800 meters per second. And the question is, do we think we have that here? And I think the answer is probably. Almost definitely. Let's go ahead and align to the node while we're getting this tank refueled. The game is very confused with this setup here about how much fuel we have. We have a lot more fuel than the game thinks that we do. Although I did just notice that these should be at a different time. And that time should be... Well, we have to undock this, don't we? Yeah, that's going to be interesting. But these should absolutely be at a different time than the parachutes. So the parachutes are going to move down over here. That all looks good. Are these all the same type of chute? Yeah, these are all standard radial mount parachutes. There are no drogues there. There are actually some drogues at the end. That is... Yeah, these. So these guys would have another stage down here. The drogues would go first, and then the 3 sets of mains, and then the singular main chute. Where is this? Ah, I forgot to remove this one. Okay. Well, we'll probably want to cut that chute. I'll leave it be for now, and we'll evaluate it when we do the actual landing. So we're now oriented for this burn, and we need to warp on forward. So that's going to be another 300-day warp. I will be back at the end of this, but before we go, let's check to make sure, yeah, this still looks good. Okay. Okay, so here we are about to arrive at Duna. We're actually phasing into the Sphere of Influence right now. I'm not sure where Duna is. It's around somewhere. Aha! There we go. Okay, so we've got about 50 seconds here until this braking burn. So this is again going to be a pretty long braking burn. And 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. Okay. So yeah, this is going to be a pretty long braking burn, and we're going to need to slow down a fair amount here, for sure. So let's physics warp that forward for right now. And we're of course going to want to transfer some of this fuel as soon as we can. Well, we can right now, but I don't want to just yet, because we want to keep the amount of fuel roughly equal for our weight distribution. So for now, that seems reasonably good. We're just going to continue to burn through here, and I'm wondering about the status of our orbit right now. Okay. It's not really bending too much yet, but it is starting to bend a little bit. We're pretty close to running out of fuel here, so let's go ahead and transfer in our reserves. And we'll stop both of these. Excellent. So that looks good for now. We've now got enough fuel in this tank to complete this burn. And checking in on our orbit, we can see that our escape is absolutely being delayed by quite a lot. It's starting to move a fair distance. That's good. About 100 meters per second here. So we're going to use Ike as a reference, and let's come out of the physics warp at this point. Wonderful. We've got about 15, 10, and we're going to call this good. Yeah, that's good enough. So we're going to use Ike as a reference point here for our inclination. We need to adjust our inclination. So let's set Ike as our target, even though we're not actually going to Ike. And we are going to come over to this node here. We're 16.2 degrees off, and let's just adjust that this direction. That's nice and cheap. I like it. Okay, so 55.1 meters per second. Let's go ahead and align for that burn. And in the meantime, we should absolutely be moving this fuel on in. This is a lot of fuel, and we've still got a decent chunk of it. So this is going to put us in a good inclination, and then we need to get ourselves into a nice low orbit. Now, I forget what the atmospheric height of Duna is. Does it say in the encyclopedia? Let's see here. Locations, celestial bodies, Duna. That's not very helpful. Okay. It does not say that in KSpedia. Noted. I think that there is a way that you can tell it in-game, but I think that it's 50 for Duna, if I remember correctly. I can double-check that, and we can warp on forward to this, which we should do. So this will be in about 1 day. We're now at approximately the correct inclination, and this is going to be an 18-second burn only. Our thrust to weight is getting a lot better, by the way. It's now at 1, so that's definitely good. So we've got about 20 seconds. 10 and 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. Okay. So we've still got a decent amount of fuel out here, for sure. And we're going to need some of it, at least. I'm not sure exactly how much, but I think this is definitely going to deliver us to where we want to be. Okay, so we're just chasing this node a little bit. Our inclination is pretty close right now. But let's just pursue this node ever so slightly. We're 0.3 meters per second off at this moment, so that moved quite a lot on us. No doubt about that. Small corrective burn going in here, but it should be absolutely fine. So just waiting until we get into position, and now-ish. Very gentle burn. I'm calling that good. Okay. Inclination is 0.0. That's what I want to see. So now we want to drop down to an altitude of something. Ideally without an Ike interaction here. We don't actually want Ike set as our target. So what is the periapsis that we want to go to? Well, let me just look it up here. Duna atmosphere height. Yeah, 50 kilometers. I was right. Okay, cool. So that's absolutely great, and that means that we want to bring this down to be somewhere around like 55 or 60. So let's just put this right about, I think 55 is okay. Somewhere around, oh, okay. Gonna have to be a bit cautious here if we want to get precise. I don't know how precise we're going to get. Well, now. Okay, that's exactly 55,000. I don't think we're going to nail that. But let's get lined up for the node, and that'll be great. In the meantime, we can, of course, flow this fuel in. There we go. And this is going to be 137.4, but once we get down there, we're going to have to do a braking burn as well. So let's go ahead and align for this burn, and we'll start for our dive in. And we'll warp on forward. So this is going to be in about 1 minute. 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, and 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. Okay, about a 45-second burn. Not a big deal there. Excellent. Our orbital speed is getting real low, and that's what we want to see. 2, 1, and I'm going to call this good enough. We didn't nail it, but we don't need to. This is 55,791. We can adjust that down a little bit if we really, really wanted to. I suppose we could. Let's thrust limit this guy down to 0.5% of thrust. And let's just dial this on down a bit. This is going to be very sensitive. We're just targeting 55 for now. We can always bring it down more later if we want to. That autosave was awkwardly timed. Okay. Sure, 54,998 is good enough. So we're going to add a maneuver here, and we're going to bring this right on down and circularize. Perfect. That looks good. definitely close enough. Maybe change the timing on it to be back here a little bit and then a little bit more retrograde, but overall, this is good. Yeah, that's fine. So align to that node, but it is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and next episode, we are going to put this into its proper position on the ground. We're going to land it. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Dark Horse, Ethan Feldman, Aurelio, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge, STL, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.